We're about to study page 34 in the Tractate Shabbat, this fascinating page dealing with Hilchot Hatmana, which is putting an item and either covering it or putting it with a hot temperature, hot water or hot temperature in order to preserve it. And we're going to elaborate of all different options of Hatmana, when it's possible, when it's not. Also, another subject we're going to discuss is the question of timing, which is uncertainty over when it's a nightfall, if it's it's called safek chashcha, safek ena chashcha, if it's a nightfall or not nightfall, and the practical application when you have the doubt. Some word of introduction before we study the Mishnah. The whole idea of giving tithes, which is an important mitzvah of Maasrot, is forbidden to do on Shabbat. In other words, we cannot make a tithe on Shabbat. So since someone wants to eat, if someone has some type of fruits and he wants to eat them on Shabbat, he has to do before Shabbat begins, he has to take the tithe and make the Maasrot. So the Mishnah said as follows: שלושת דברים צריך אדם לומר בתוך ביתו ערב השבת עם חשכה. So there are three important things Rashi said that the person have to say right before Shabbat, before the nightfall, and not, in other words, not later. Why you need to do it? So first of all, you need to do it in order to make sure that people his household not forget. But also, if you look at the language, they use the term of lomar betoch beito. Lomar betoch beito, which means has to be in a nice language, not out of anger or frustration. You need to say it nicely to his family. It's getting close to Shabbat, and we should make sure that we are properly ready. Number one, isartem. Did you take a maasrot? Did you take tithe before Shabbat? In other words, if you don't do it before Shabbat, is an issue to eat anything that wasn't take tithe properly during the Shabbat. The second one is eravtem. We explained earlier that there are two types of eruvin. One is the eruvin that apply to the distance, eruv Techumin, and the second one is the eruvei chatzerot, which apply to neighbors that live in the same development, and you need to make them as one house in the sense of the ability to carry from one location to another. So the first one applies to the idea of alpayim amah, that a person cannot go more than 2,000 amot of the Tchum Shabbat, of the place that he can extend it in Shabbat. If he needs to do that, he needs to carry mazon shte sudot, which means he needs to carry a meal for 2 meals basically, and then if he dwells there, he can go for another 2,000.
It's a 2,000 or 4,000?
It's altogether 4,000.
Right. No, but I thought the way I read it was because it was 2,000 amot out from a center, and you could go from one side to the other, which would be 4,000 amot.
If you count all together, as long as you put the food in between.
No, but I thought you only had to put the food after 4,000 amot because.
No, in other words, from whatever you put the food, then you count 2,000 amot to each location, to any location. So in other words, you go by the food for 2 meals, and from that point you go for 2,000 amot either way. Either you could go south, north,
no,
etc. The next one is if you have a development that they have several neighbors together, and in that development you can carry by the Torah law. Listen carefully. By the Torah law, person can carry from one to another. By the sages, you cannot carry from one to another as long as they don't make an eruv chatzerot, which means they make it in such a way the eruv that it's like they make the whole development as one entity.
What is chatzer? Like, what is it?
Chatzer is like a yard that belongs to many people, and since it belongs to many people, then they share. It's like here you see it in many developments. So they have several yards, or you call it like playgrounds for the children. They play together, or the yards that they use together.
Courtyard.
What?
Courtyard.
Courtyards, right?
Building, yeah.
So how they do that? They take a bread, for example, from every house, and they put it in one of the houses, and then they said we all together joining together, and the same way as we all join that location, so we are like one reshut, we are one together. Now, here is the thing. You cannot do that on Shabbat. It's forbidden to do neither Involving Techumin nor Involving Chatzerot during Shabbat. Why? Because it's like you're purchasing a house. You cannot purchase or sell house on Shabbat. So one who make Eruv Techumin, he basically dwell on that place because he put that food in that location in order for him to dwell there. That's what the Meiri said. So the same apply to neighbors. If all of them put it together, so it's considering like one person carry a partnership with all the others. So therefore, you have to make sure that all of that done before Shabbat. And then the third one, hadliku et haner, which means that's the obligation to light the candles. So the two first thing, like isartem eravtem, did you tithe? Did you make the eruv? The question, they maybe did it, they maybe not, maybe they did it and is not aware of. But hadliku et haner, it's more like commanding it, like telling them, because lighting candles is something that you can see in your eyes, and because of that, the one who said it, he is like commanding it because he doesn't see it. That's what Rashi said. Safek חשכה, safek ena חשכה, because if it's a question, if it's a dark and it's already night or not, so if you're not sure, it's called בין השמשות, when you're not sure if it's night or not nightfall, which means when there is uncertainty whether or not the night was fallen on Friday evening, one may not tithe the produce, and that's the Mishnah said, or do all of that because it's safek. It's not, he's not sure. And then he said, Erev Shabbat ben Hashmashot, when it's come to close to the nightfall, and especially now since we changed the time, and then the Shabbat now it's 4 something, right? So it's already night, and the Shabbat enters. So later the Gemara put a clear definition what exactly the ben Hashmashot. So he said, therefore, ein me'asrim et havadai. Since the rabbi said that you cannot make a tithe on Shabbat, so something that you know clearly that you need to have a tithe, you cannot do it at that time because it's considering a metaken. It's considering that you're making that fruit ready for eating. So it's the rabbis put a decree that it's called kelim, tikkun kelim, that you pave the way for that food to be able to eat them on Shabbat. So therefore, because it's almost the same, it's called domeh lemlacha asura, it's like the same as forbidden type of work, or another option that it's called shvut, that it will lead him to go to something like that. So it's like it's one of those boundaries that the rabbis made. So therefore, ve'ein madbilin et hakelim. So again, the same zerat shvut. They don't do a ducking those dishes at that time because again, it's like metakenkli, changing the status of that utensils. The Shulchan Aruch said that that's applied also for those utensils that was taken from a non-Jew, that they need to duck them, and therefore the Mishnah said that even at that time, Erev Shabbat ben Hashmashot, the person should not do it. And then he said, ve'ein madlikim et hanerot. One of the 39 melachot is mav'ir, to light, to burn, or to light the fire on Shabbat. So mav'ir, it's forbidden not by the rabbis, by the Torah. It's one of the 39. So because we said that you not take a tithe and you not duck anything at that time, so and even that it's not by the Torah, it's only rabbinic. So for sure you should know that you cannot light candles at this time of the twilight. It's a ben hashmashot. So it's like clearly aval me'asrin et admai, but dmai is, as we said, it's Aramaic damai. You're not sure if it's taking tithe or not, because at the time of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, Yochanan the high priest, it was Shimon the righteous that in charge for the rabbinic court, and they make sure that everyone taking a tithe properly, and do the whole process of Truma Gdola, Maaser Rishon, Maaser Sheni, all these different tithes that was need to give at that time. But unfortunately, it was some people who are not educated that was belittle all these rules, And therefore it was a question of those people who were not educated if they really took a tithe or not. And because it was a question, they used the Aramaic word that is called damai, damai. This is what's the status? Zema. So the rule is that if someone takes a fruit from someone who's not educated, if you're purchasing from someone who's not religious or not educated, and you're not so sure if that person took a tithe or not, and since you're afraid if it's, for example, it's the 3rd year that need to give a tithe for the poor, or it's the 6 years after the sabbatical year, after Shemitah, so you're not sure, so you have to do it. So this prohibition of Dmai is not the same as Tevel. Tevel is something that you know for sure you need to. The Mai, you're not sure. Why? Because the rabbi said that most of the people who are not educated, they do have this rule of tithe, and they do tightening their fruit. So therefore, you can have the assumption that they already did it. So it's not considering as tikkun perot, that you really change the status of those fruits. So the rabbi said when it's come to ben hashmashot, when it's dmai and it's not tevel, you can do that. But if it's dark already, for sure you cannot do that. So that's the difference between Dmai and Tevel. Ume'arvin. What is me'arvin? So it's not to contradict what we said earlier. So the Gemara later explained what does that mean me'arvin. Vetomnin et hachamin. So vetomnin et hachamin. So basically that you may place insult the hot water to be used on Shabbat. So basically, Rashi's the explanation is that all of that apply at that time, but not after it's dark. You cannot do the hatmana. So just meanwhile, we just mentioned in the important halakha that when is the safek hashcha, when it's uncertainty, whatever it's nightfall or uncertainty whether it's not nightfall, then it's all those issues are raised. So we should know always to be very circumspect with that, very cautious to do it early enough, so you're not involved with all these questions of may enter domain of violation of Shabbat. So we go now to the Gemara 34. מנען מילה אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי אמר קרא וידעת כי שלום אוהליך ופקדת נבך ולא תחטא. Here the Gemara discussed the issue, one phase in the Mishnah, wants to clarify, which is the lighting candles. A person should command his family, should ask them, is that something that you have to do? Marsha said, since Rashi did not mention any interpretation of this Mishnah, it's some type of suggestion. But here they said it, they bring a sentence from the book of Iyov, from the Job chapter 5. They said, and you shall know that your tent is in peace, and you shall visit your habitation, and shall not sin. So what we derive from that? We derive from that one should visit his habitation, which means ask his home, so that they'll not come to sin. In other words, they make sure that it's in advance lit. Why? Because if they're sitting in the darkness, then is no peace in the house. Or some commentators said that because the sentence in Iyov said the word velo techta, and you shall not sin. What does that mean? You shall not sin. So they said that, let's face it, either some people by mistake lighting it, or others by not fulfill his obligation to light candles, etc. So I remember as a kid, one time I went, for sure I'm not going to mention names, one of these big Hasidic rabbis, was a very, very hot summer. And it was Friday, it's already Shabbat, and they're about to start Ma'ariv. And the place was packed with people and very hot. So one absolutely idiot, absolutely ignoramus person came in and turned on the air condition. So some of the people came to him and says, "You're nuts, it's already Shabbat, what are you doing?" So he said to them in Yiddish, for the Rebbe to come here and to suffer with this, it will be a violation of Shabbat for joy of Shabbat, which for sure is nonsensical. But the point here, the Gemara tried to say is, when a person sits in darkness on Shabbat and not light candles properly, it's a problem, right? Because it can lead to a sin. אמר רבא בר אבונה, אף על גב דאמרו רבנן, שלושה דברים צריך אדם לומר, even though the sages said that there are three things, person should say, indeed, they're required to say, but צריך לממרו בניחותא. You remember when we explained the Mishnah? A person should say it benichuta. You should say it in the calmly manner, so that the members of the household will say that heicha delikablu minei. So the member of the household will accept it from him. In other words, if he said them harshly, so his family member will mislead and they get petrified. You leave for shul, and then they do things when it's already Shabbat, for example. So you have to be careful when he said, because the Sfat Emet explain that the minute you go, you pass those borders and the fear in the house, there is a Gemara that said that the person should never create that atmosphere of tension in his house. If that happens, sometimes the member of the family does all kind of violation, not because they want to, but they're afraid of his reaction. So he has to be careful. אמר רב אשי, אנא לא שמיע ליד רבא בר אבונה. I didn't hear that person should say it in such a manner. וקיימתי מסברה, but I did it based on my own reasoning, which means it makes sense, just common sense. So they said, Haguf Akashya. So they said that this Mishnah itself is difficult because it contains eternal contradiction. Why? Amarta, you said, שלושה דברים צריך אדם לומר בתוך בית ערב שבת עם חשכה. Three things a person must say in home before the Shabbat nightfall, which means nightfall before the nightfall. Yeah, right? Yes, we should say that the three things they are but im חשכה, which means when it's already dark. Aim. I understand that. But ספק חשכה, ספק אינו חשכה לא, which means when it's get very, very close. Imagine from the time now we changed the clock, and now we're going earlier. And Shabbat started, what is it, like 4 something next week? And then this week, what is it?
Next week, yeah, it's like 5, right? Well, next week, yeah, like 4:50 or something. Yep. 4:50.
Imagine a couple of weeks, you have it to like what it is, 4:30 or something like that.
Right.
It's very early, so it's a problem to do that at that time. It's basically forbidden. V'adartani, but then at the end of the Mishnah we said, Safek Chashecha, Safek Na Chashecha. When you are not certain if it's dark or not, what you should do? Me'arev. So that's basically for the end of the Mishnah. So which means you understand indirectly that when it's a Safek Laila, when it's a doubt if it's night or not, Safek Laila, what you should do? As long as it's not dark, you should do it. So it's basically contradicted what we said earlier. So they said, Siman begufia zmirat tzipara bechavla demelta. Remember, we said many times that this is just abbreviation of upcoming discussion. The first one, Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rabbi Chia, Amar Rashi, Amar Rav, Lo kashya, kan be'eruvei tchumin, kan be'eruvei chatzerot. We explained earlier that there are 2 types of eruvin. One is called eruvei tchumin, and one is called eruvei chatzerot. So let's just, for those who just walk in, let's explain it again to make sure that we all are on the same page. Eruvei chatzerot and eruvei tchumim. Eruvei tchumim is the 2,000 amma. A person should leave the food, and then from that point, any 2,000 amma he can go. The food has to be for two meals. Now, eruvei chatzerot, the eruvei tchumim. So that's meaning when you have a courtyard, that they have several members of the different houses join it, such as if you have playground, you have a yard that belongs to the people in that development. Very common here. So you take a bread from each member, put it in one location, and by doing that they are all joining the the property, to use the property in between, which means that considering the entire development as one entity. So the same way as you can carry food from one room to another room, let's say if a person lives in a mansion, right, or he owns a building or a hotel, he can go from one room to another, even he need to walk a long distance, as long as it's its own property, right? So the same way, if it's a development and they joining it, it's considering a ruvei, a tchumim, they're all together. So they said the early part of the Mishnah speak about a ruvei tchumim, so the Shabbat boundaries. The end of the Mishnah speak about ruvei chatzerot. That's Rashi. Tosfot here explain that the prohibition here, even that it's rabbinic, they have indirect source from the Torah. The Gemara also in Eruvin in 51 explain it. When the Mitzvah Shem will get there, we explain it further. But basically, a Ruv Tchumim, it's considering a absolute Kinyan Gamur, which is absolute Maaseh Kinyan. It's absolute a status of Eruv, because a person can dwell there. He can do what's called Shvitat Shabbat. He can dwell there on Shabbat, and he can measure from that point and onward the 2,000 Amah. It's like he purchased that place in order to dwell there. So that's the reason why the rabbis are stringent when it comes to Eruvei Tchumin. Even at the time of Ben Hashmashot, it's like the total Shvut, it's like the total Shabbat. But the prohibition against taking some items with when you're sharing something with several neighbors, it's you have to say that it's not biblical, that it's more it's a stringency. So Eruvei Chatzerot, many rabbis hold that it's just a signal between the neighbors, but to show that it's not a Rashut HaYachid, it's not a private domain in between them, and that's the reason why if it's not clear that it's not, they can do it.
So the Eruv Chatzerot, then that is it treated like a Rashut Yachid? A private domain, once it's established, it's just not a permanent domain, but it's treated the same way as a private domain?
Yeah, the Rashi
so you can
and the
move anything within it, essentially.
The minutes you do that, yes. It's just that's the reason when it's not clear that it's night, it's Safek Laila, since it's not dark, and they're not sure if the Shabbat is already there or not, then they can, if it's that situation, they can do it.
Well, maybe this isn't related to the page, but when you build an Eruv for a settlement or a town, what's that considered? Is that what's that? I mean, is that considered an Eruv Chatzerot or no?
No.
Okay.
Now another thing in regard to Eruvei Tchumin, he said, "Ve'amar Rava amru lo shnayim." If two people come and said, Tzeh ve'arev, which means two people say that go and make an Eruv, and that's applied to Eruvei Tchumim according to Rashi and Pnei Yoshua. Tosfot hold that it's Eruvei Chatzerot, but anyway, in a simple way it's Eruvei Tchumim. Two people come and say that you should make the Eruvei Tchumim. Aleinu, for each and every one of us, לאחד ערב עליו מבעוד יום ולאחד ערב עליו בין השמשות, which means for one person he did it in advance, the other one he did when it's not clear and it's dark or not. זה שערב מבעוד יום נאכל בעירובו בין השמשות, וזה שערב בשמשות נאכל בעירובו משחשכה. So the first one, if for example someone else ate it, or let's say a dog found it and ate it, right? So in order to make it happen, the Eruv has to be there at the time of the Shabbat started. So therefore, if we're considering Ben Hashmashot, it's a daytime, so it turns that we lost it before Shabbat, and therefore he cannot go 2,000 Amah from that domain. But if he did it ben hashmashot, then it's different. So it's Tosfot said it's not necessarily if someone ate it. It's the same as if it's not, because the minutes that the Eruv made at the time that it's not really Shabbat, but it's getting close to Shabbat, it's called kavash vitata. It's already considering as an Eruv, and therefore he can go ahead and walk at 2,000 amah from that domain. So now the Gemara asks a question. It's like a question, a rhetorical question. It says, "Ma nafshach?" What exactly you meant to say? I ben hashmashot yemamahu. If you tell me that it's already twilight, it's not clear, it's a day. Batra liknei. So the second one will that they put it close to the time of ben hashmashot. He can go ahead and use it. Kamal or liknei, but the first one that they put it, he cannot do it. Why? Because they found that it was eaten when it's still daytime. So therefore, it's he lost the eruv and cannot do anything, cannot walk. Ben hashmashot leilehu. If you tell me that the time of twilight ben hashmashot is considering night, kamal liknei. So the first one he has already have the shvita, and therefore he can hold it, not the other one. Batra lo liknei, the second one not. So they said ben hashmashot sfeikau. So they said ben hashmashot. When it's come to this type of situation, that it's sfeikau. It's not clear. The twilight, it's uncertainty, and uncertain whatever it consists, both day and night. Usfeika de rabbanan lekula. If it's a doubt in the divrei sofrim, in something that the rabbinic, we go in more lenient. And so because you cannot go out of the domain of Shabbat, only by the rabbinics. So the first one, which is put before the twilight, and it was eaten before the twilight, or during the twilight. So since the twilight is considered already an option as a night, it means that the Eruv was there when the Shabbat started. So since that, he can go from that point and onward the 2,000 amah. All right. And that applied to both. Rashi said also to the first one. The first one too. Everyone make a leniency toward himself. Even you see two leniencies that contradicted each other. You can do it. Tosfot and Maratz Chayut and all of them. They said lechatchila you should not do this type of Uvei Techumin in a time that it's twilight. But if already person did it, it's already considering kinyan eruv. It's already fine. The Rambam, by the way, in Hilchot Eruvim, proves the same. אמר רבא, מפני מה אמרו, אין טומנים בדבר שאינו מוסיף הבל משחשכה. Here we discuss another question. We said that since you're not sure what is the situation, it's a twilight. So you take a pot and you pull it out of the oven and you wrap it with several blankets. So in other words, you don't add the temperature to make it hotter, but you observe the current temperature. So according to that Mishnah, when it's already dark, you can still do the hatmana. You can still wrap the product and preserve it with the blanket. So, but if it's a fully dark, you cannot do it. So, according to that, the Mishnah speaks about some type of hatmana. Again, hatmana, it's wrapping up a product. For example, a soup that was hot, and you want to just not to add, just to observe the temperature. You wrap it in several blankets, and as a result, it's observe the temperature. So since it's not adding heating to the existing product, the existing food, so therefore if you go by the Mishnah, so Rashi said that if you do that with that time, it's a problem. If you do it early enough, it's different. Now, but something that musif hevel, something that in a way add the temperature, which means hevel, it's like the smoke that's coming out of the product, which means you have the product, and the product is have certain smoke that's coming out when you lift up the cover of the pot. Okay. Now, by wrapping up and in the observing and set the temperature, it turns that sometimes it's adding more smoke, in a sense that they add the temperature. So basically, if you do it in advance, if you wrap it in those blankets, for example, in advance before Shabbat, that's different. But if you do it at that time, it's a problem. Why? They said gzera shema yartiach. Okay. The problem is he took it out. Rashi explained, and now he realized that it's not hot enough. So what did he do? No, tell me. What did he do? He took it out and he realized that it's not hot enough. Right? So what did he do?
Put it on the fire again, put it back in the oven.
And that's called Nevashel.
Right, that's
it's like cooking on Shabbat.
Yep.
Very good. So that's the problem. The Mishnah Brura in Kuf Nun Zayin explains that that's the problem with this type of situations. When you yeah.
But if you haven't turned off the heat
in advance, that's fine. You turn it off in advance, that's fine.
Okay.
Amar le Abaye responded to Rabbi and he said, Yache ben hashmashot name nigzar. So, if you tell me when it's really dark, that the person cannot do hatmana, okay, what exactly again what we said? We said that it's already dark, you're pulling it out of the oven, and you're wrapping up, but it's dark already. You said you can't do that. Why you can do that? Because the fear is that it will be not hot enough and you put it back, right? So if that's the case, why we allowed to do it when it's the twilight? We should make the same decree at that time. Why the Mishnah allow when it's a safek laila, when it's a question if it's night or day? Because the whole gzeira, the whole prohibition is going to cook on Shabbat, and according to the Mishnah, the Tana said that this gzeirat shvut apply also in ben hashmashot when it's a twilight. So he answered and he said, Amar lei Rava respond to Abaye, and he said, Stam kdeirot rotchot hen, which means usually you bake it, you cook it in such a way that it's already a ready product, and people pulling it out when it's already a ready product. So the whole idea of making it is just to observe the temperature so it will taste good and feel good, but the fear that that it will be too cold and you reheat it, it's way too far. So, ואמר רבא מפני מה אמרו הם טומנים בדבר המוסיף הבל. We now turn to 34b. All these sfeikot, all these doubts, has a lot of halachic applications. There are two lomar in Rashi's here. One is the Sofek the Rabbanan, and soon you see another one. It's the I give you several examples. You see how practical it is. We are forbidden to do work when it's already very very close to the time of a Havdalah. Let's say, for example, if Shabbat is over, this weekend Shabbat is over, let's say about...
Well, this is about 6:40, something
6:40.
Like
Now it's 6:34. All right?
so it's Bein HaShemashot.
Now you want, for example, a post person left at your entrance, right, a lot of mail, and you notice that one of the envelope is something that you are really very much wants to see what is in as soon as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a 6:34. Can you open the envelope now or not?
No.
No. The same on Friday. If it's Friday ben hashmashot, that you're not sure if it's night or not, right? So you can do it in a biblical time, in a time or not biblical, in a time of the Mishnaic time, when they have the Beit HaMikdash, for example, etc. Early time. So a person needs to bring, it's called Asham Talui, a special offering, because he did something that it's basically wrong. If, in assumption that is a possibility, it was already Shabbat, so he was in violation. So, because it wasn't clear, it's called Asham Talui Me'asafek. That you're bringing a offering because it's not clear if he violated Shabbat or not. So, now, since you said that Ben Hashmashot, the twilight, is between day and night, what is the application? So, here Amar Rava, Mipnei Ma'amru, Rava said, why did the sages said that אין טומנים בדבר המוסיף הבל, that we should not insulate hot water on Shabbat for something that add heat, like salt, for example, ואפילו מבעוד יום, even when it's still day. What's the reason? גזרה Shema yatmin beremetz sheyesh ba gachelet. So the idea is that it's decree that one will come to cover it with hot ashes, and it's contain glowing ember, so people may not differentiate between addition of heat by means of the ashes and other addition of heat. Amar le Abaye v'yatmin. So Abaye said, so what's the problem? Let him insulate it in a hot ashes. So if you do it mib'od yom, if it's a still day, it's not any prohibition. So Abaye answered, he said, Gzera shema yachte begechalim. That's very crucial because you hear this Gzera a lot of time in this tractate. He says, decree lest one come to stoke the coals in order to make them burn on Shabbat and thereby violate the Torah prohibition. Right? Because he just tried to expedite the cooking. So he basically violated the prohibition of bishul, of cooking on Shabbat. So because they put the Gzera process, they put a special decree for any product that it wasn't fully cooked, that they should not put it in the remets, that they have some coals. So the rabbis juxtapose and put it for the everything, that even something that it wasn't cooked in advance. So since the Mishnah speaks about something that it's not fully dark, right, which is called twilight, ben hashmashot, just as a general term, you should know, shamash, okay, it's like shemesh, okay, it's a sun. So you have shmashot in the plural, it's like two, 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. So in between shmashot, meaning something that you're not sure if it's a night or day. Because shemesh can be like day, and shemesh can be the time that it's no longer shemesh, that it's dark. So they said, ben hashmashot, they have 3 definitions. 1, safek min hayom o min halayla, that you're not sure if it's day or night, point 1. So what's the point? So the Maharsha explained that if it's a twilight, then you enter the domain of sfekot. What is the safek? Safek kulo min hayom, that you're not sure if it's a day. Safek kulo min halayla, so you're not sure if it's a night. Tosfot explained that that even it's night, you have different domain of the night. Or let me show with you a practical example. Let's say a baby was born on Friday, and it's safek ben hashmashot. It's a serious halachic discussion. What do you do with the brit? Because according to Mishnah, they say that sometimes the brit can postpone to 8, 9, 10, 11 days, which means that since it's a twilight and you're not sure if it's night or day, you're not sure it's a Friday or already Saturday. So when you are in this doubt, what happened? All idea of doing the Brit Milah, the 8 days, it supersedes Shabbat when it's a definite. So the Moel can carry his tools and he can do all kind of things because that's a biblical mitzvah that has to be bizmana on the proper time, which is the 8 days. However, what do you do when you are in a twilight situation? How you count when it's a safek, when you're not sure it's a Friday or Saturday? It's just an example. Okay? The Maggid Mishnah in Hallchot Shabbat, by the way, said that when you have a situation like that, since the Ben Hashmashot is a question if it's a day or it's a night, and it's that change happened over really a matter of seconds. So it's you basically better to go by the, if it's come to the hatmana, you should be more stringent and you consider that it's a night. So they said matilin oto lechomer, that we should go strict, which means we should hold it like the stringent way, shnei yamim, like today, for example. If Motzei Shabbat, Saturday night, occurred Ben Hashmashot, you cannot do any type of work. Why? Because if you think that it may be day, so it's still Shabbat, the Shabbat did not finish. And if you did something, so the same way as someone did in Shogeg by mistake, he needs to bring an offering. It's called Asham Talui Misafek. We said, because it may be the day, so the same apply to Friday night. When it's a Bein Hashmashot, you cannot do any type of work because you're not sure if it's night and it's already Shabbat or not, and because it's Shogeg, and it's not clear that you did it, and you did it. So at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, they need to bring Asham Talui Misafek. They need to bring a special offering because it's a doubt. So you basically impose upon a person the stringency of the day following. Soon the Gemara explain what does that mean. Ve'ezehu bein hashmashot. So now they ask, nevertheless, tell me, what is the bein hashmashot? So Rashi said here, klomar safek yesh bo mishnehem, which means Rashi used the word klomar because we originally think that it's a question if it's a day or night. So why we repeat and said safek kulo min hayom, that it's not clear if it's a day or night? You just said it. So Rashi explained that it's is specifically to that 5 minutes, so that's very, very specific time that you're not clear, and that time can be crucial, as we said earlier. It's a good example if it's a baby that's born, right? So that's the reason why Rashi used here klomar. But anyway, back to our subject. So they said here, ve'ezu ben hashmashot. The definition of twilight is uncertain. So what is the twilight? So they said mishetikshka chama kol zman shepnei mizrach ma'adimin, from the when the sun set, as long as the eastern face of the sky is reddened by the light of the sun. So that's the time that that it's considering ben hashmashot. Basically, most of the Geonim hold that Shkiyat HaChama, it's when the time you see it red, that it's already almost dark, yeah, it's already red. But Rabbeinu Tam, the Tosfot said that apply much later, when you absolutely don't see anything, right? That's and it's a lot of application in the practical halacha.
Well, they're saying so basically the eastern or the western horizon is dark, the bottom of the sky. So the horizon's dark, and you just see the red sky. So it's sort of that means the sun's already set and you're getting a reflection off of the atmosphere. So that's very close to being dark at that point. I mean, it's very close to it getting dark.
The Vilna Gaon said in Orach Chaim Reis Samechet, he explained, basically there is other sources that say that it's a very serious halachic implication when it's come to that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're considering redness is one status, if you say that it's no longer red and it's already almost disappearing to dark, then it's a different domain, and that several minutes makes a huge difference.
Right. Yeah, I understand. I mean, it is close, but I mean, I understand. There's a big difference between it being tzeit and being before tzeit. I mean,
right.
So
they said echsif atachton velo echsif ha'elyon. So if the lower segment of the sky lost its color and the upper segment has not yet lost its color, zeu laila, that is a twilight period. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, which means Rabbi Yehuda hold that that's already the lower one, its color is equal to the upper one. It's night.
it's dark.
Right, dark. Rabbi Nechemia said that the Ben Hashmashot mean the duration of twilight period. It's what? Kedei she'alech adam mishedishka hachama chatzi mil. Beautiful. This applies the time that the person walk a half a mil after the sunset, which is again, it's from the time that the shkia until that the person walk 12 mil, which is about 9 minutes.
So it's about
Mil, it's about alpayim amah.
it's 1,000 amot.
The Gemara in Psachim Tzadik Dalet explained that it's about 1,000.
A mil is about 2,000 amot. So
Okay.
half a mil is about 1,000 amot,
Okay,
which is about 1,500 feet. So
okay.
that's about a quarter mile. So
9 minutes.
Yeah.
About average. Okay.
slow walk.
רבי יוסי אומר, בין השמשות כהרף עין. זה נכנס וזה יוצא ואי אפשר לעמוד עליו. Rabbi Yossi said something brilliant. He said, you know what? Twilight does not last for any amount of period of time. It's like a blink of an eye. So night enter and that day leaves, and it's impossible to calculate due to its tremendous brevity. Makes sense. So Tosfot explained, and Tosfot Arosh said, so according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia, you will really have a doubt, right? But according to Rabbi Yossi, it's nothing to discuss, right? So Amar Mar. Now we back to the Braita. Matilin oto lechomer shnei yamim lemay hilcheta. So we said that we impose the stringency of both date upon twilight. So they ask, what is the application halacha? Right? So soon you see how serious it is. We mentioned the breeze, but just in one example. There are many more. So now we're going to the Mishnah in Tractate Zavim, and you see an example of Tuma and Tahara. Amar Rav Huna Bred Rav Yoshua Linyan Tum'ah. He said that in regard to ritual impurity. כדתנן, ראה שני ימים בין השמשות, ספק לטומאה ולקורבן. That Zav, someone who have a discharge, and he saw an emission for 2 consecutive days during twilight. So now you're not sure if he saw the emission a single day, or the twilight to the first day of the part of the following day, or not, or the second day. So he said, in those days he need to bring a special offering as part of his purification ritual. So the Zav, because he's uncertain where he saw the emission 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days, so they said he is a ספק לטומאה ולקורבן, ראה יום אחד בין השמשות ספק לטומאה. So he's uncertain with regard to both ritual impurity and to bringing a sacrificial offering. So if he saw the emission one day during twilight, he has uncertainty status in regard to this situation of ritual impurity because he may considering 2 days. הגוף הקשיא אמר את הזהו בין השמשות משתשכח חמה כל זמן שפני מזרח מאדימים. היחסיב התחתון לא יחסיב על העליון לילה הוא. So he said that itself is difficult. Why? Because it's a self-contradiction. Initially you said that what is a twilight? Twilight means when the sun set, as long as the eastern face of the sky rendered, so it's the light is the sun. So if the bottom is it's lost its colors, so the upper lost its colors are the same, so it's already night. So and then you said והדר תנא החסיב התחתון לא החסיב עליון בין השמשות. But if the bottom it's already dark, but the top not, it's considering בין השמשות, it's in between. So you contradicted yourself. Pick and choose what. Now, why it's crucial? Because in a area of Zav, which you didn't dwell much, it's sfek sfeika. Rabbi Akiva Eiger call it sfek sfeika mitapech, which means that you have doubt within a doubt, and you can go in both ways. Which means he needs to bring an offering, and because you count the 7 days, the question is he's bringing it to the 7 or basically 8 days, depend what time are you considering the first day or not when it's a twilight. So here you see the same thing. So he said, in order to resolve this contradiction, unify the two statements and teach as follow. What is considering a twilight? From the time that the sun sets, as long as the eastern face of the skies is rendered, which means that the minute you see it, it's rendered. So by the light of the sun. So the lower segment of the sky has lost its color and the upper not. So namei ben hashmashot. So it's considered a twilight period. But if it's the top and the bottom are the same dark, that's definitely night. ורב יוסף אמר רב יהודה אמר שמואל אחי קטן שתשכח אמר כל זמן שפני מזרח מאדימים יום. When the sun set, as long as the eastern face of the sky rendered by the light of the sun, it's considering a day. If the lower segment of the sky has lost its color and the upper segment is not its color, so that's ben hashmashot, that is a twilight period. If the upper segment lost its color and that equal of the lower one, laila, it's considering night. So I remember many times, when I was in service, and we need to have a special Bedouin that used to come at night. They have a special ability to do which the armed forces call it gashashim. These people used to go at night around the border, and they have the ability to see things that you and I cannot see. Which means they sometimes stop the car and say stop a second, and they saw a sign of a little cat that crossed the borders, which you never see it, right? I don't know even during the day, but they have a special ability, those Bedouins. So we basically waiting for their units to come. So we sat, and sometimes we watch the sunset, and it's beautiful, but it's a period of time. It's like it takes time between the light of the sun, the red of the sun, and the sun that the bottom is dark and the top it's not there, and then it's a process, right? There are people who have that as a fun. They like to watch it, right? At that time, right?
Take lots of photographs.
Take some photographs, right? They have all kind of religion and culture involved with all of this, right? Anyway, right? So the Gemara remarks, so in this dispute over the precise definition of the twilight, both Rabbi and Rav Yosef follow the line of reasoning. The Itmar, as we stated, Shi'ur ben hashmashot bekama. What is the measure of the duration of the twilight? Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Shlosha chelkei mil. You take a walk to 3 part of the meal, which means the assumption in establishing the duration of twilight is that a simple number of possible was chosen to quantify it, which means the possibility, the Rashba said, the possibility that Shmuel was referring to 3 feet of 3 servants of meal was not considered. So that's the idea of meal. So the Gemara asks, if you tell me that that the meaning of the 3 part of the meal, if you say that it's referred to 3 half of a meal, let him say a meal and a half. Ela tlata tiltel mila nema meal, right? Rather, if you say that the mean 3/3 of a meal, let him simple say meal. Ela, rather, tlata riv a mila. It's a mean 3/4 of a meal. ורב יוסף אמר רב יהודה אמר רב שמואל 2 חלקי meal. Rabbi Yosef, that the duration of twilight is the 2 part of a meal. So again, the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of 2 part of meal? If you say that the 2 half of the meal, let him simply say meal. Whether you say that it's a 2/4 of a meal, let him say that it's a half of a meal. So it's all a discussion of the proper time of Ben Hashmashot, because this duration of twilight, it's less as long as it takes to walk a 3/4 of a meal before the nightfall. So, and that's, by the way, the halacha according to Rabbi Yehuda. So we basically said here, Ella, you have to say that the only just I want to finish this sugya a little bit the next daf, just to clarify. They said trei tiltei mil, which means that this apply to 2/3 of a meal, mai beinayu. So which means between 12 to 16 minutes. That's a different opinion. The time take the meal. So they said, "My benayu." What's the difference between the opinions here? So the ika benayu palga de danka. Rashi here explains that the 3/4 it's basically 9 of 12, which means the practical difference between them is a half of a 6 of daka, which means 1/12 of a meal. So the dispute is consistent, and it's the duration of the twilight, according to Rav Yosef, is shorter than the duration of Rabbah. The danka is the name of Persian coin, which is the so it's like, in order to measure, you say that it's 1 to 1/6 of that. So that's it's like a shorter. The duration of twilight, it's basically it says 1/12 of a meal. So soon the Gemara will basically go lechumra, but Tosfot here elaborate much deeper. There is a Gemara in Baba Metzia in Daf Samech, page 60, that said that danka, it's like 1/6 of the dinar. It's like the shishit, that 1/6. Practical halacha. שלושה דברים צריך אדם לומר. The Shulchan Aruch Or HaChaim 260 said the 3 things a person must say. A person should calmly ask the member of the household 3 questions before Shabbat begins, just before twilight. That's the Mishnah Berurah said. Number 1, isartem, have you tied the produce? Number 2, eravtem, have you placed an iruv? Meaning, have you separated the challah? And then after he said adliku et haner. He said to them, light the candle. That's the statement of Rabbi Bar Abuna. Nowadays, when the joining of the courtyards is placed for the entire year, or in a location where there is no mitzvah of tithe, Like outside of Eretz Yisrael, for example, one doesn't need to ask those questions. That's the Rema and Berei Tev. Now, then the Rambam said in Hilchot Shabbat, chapter 4, Safek Chashecha, Safek Eino Chashecha. When there is uncertainty whether or not the night has fallen on Friday evening, so one may not tight any produce that definitely has not been tight, including fruit, and that's the Mishnah Brura, for which tightening is required by rabbinic law. But one may immerse a vessel in the mikveh, in a ritual bath. One may not light the lamp, and one may not place a joining of the Shabbat boundaries. However, one may tight demai. Demai, we said that when you're not so sure, but it's damai. It's possible that the Amaretz did already, Afrashat Masrot, insulate hot water in a manner that does not add heat. Also, that's fine at that time. So that's applied to uncertainty, wherever Safek Chashecha, Safek Eina Chashecha. Another halacha, that's a Rambam, Hilchot Eruvin, chapter 6. Amru lo shnayim tzeva rev aleinu. If two people deputize a third person to place an eruv for them, and he placed the eruv for one while he was still day, and the eruv food was eaten during the twilight, and he placed the eruv of the second one during the twilight, so then the halacha is that each eruv is valid. We go the leniency for both. For the one whose eruv was eaten, twilight is considered nighttime, and it is as the eruv were eaten after the Shabbat began. For the one whose eruv was placed during twilight, it's considered to be at daytime, and it is as the eruv were placed during the day. So joining of courtyards is a rabbinic law, and there is a principle that ruling in cases of the uncertainty with regard to rabbinic ordinances are lenient. If the eruv was both places during the twilight and eating during the twilight, so it's invalid. And then the Rambam in the Hilchot Shabbat chapter 4 said, "En tomnim bedavar she'ino mosif hevel." So that's the important thing. It says one may not insult food at night time on Friday, even that is sustenance, the substance that does not add heat. For example, you take a big pot and you wrap it with blankets, and you just observe the temperature in that sense. The decree is based on the fear that he might come to cook food on Shabbat. So therefore, this halacha applies only in a case where there is a concern that the Torah prohibition against cooking might be violated. The same one may not insulate food in the substance that adds heat. That, in other words, you add more heat to while it's still day. But if one did so, even unintentionally, the Magen Avraham said it is prohibited to eat the food because it's basically made in violation of Shabbat. Next halacha is a Rambam in the Sefer Korbanot Hilchot Mechusarei Kapara chapter 2. He said, Ra'a shnei yamim ben hashmashot. We talk about a zav. A zav who saw an emission during the twilight is considered ritually impure based on the uncertainty. And ezeu ben hashmashot. What exactly the twilight? The duration of twilight lasts as long as it takes to walk 3/4 of a meal before nightfall. The halacha was decided in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, the ruling of Rabbi Yochanan, and the opinion of Rabbah. So that's basically established in dispute of Rav Yosef. So that's the time of the Bein Hashmashot. Now, what the application we have, it's later we see that we ask a question in a situation like that: can you go ahead and move a large vessel on Shabbat, or large vessel, or you carry something in regard to ritual impurities? So all continuation of that discussion when it's come to something that you have a safek. And as we said, the Rabbi Akiva Eiger, which is above the scope of this discussion, have a long talk in regard to a sfek sfeika, if it's the doubt within a doubt, if you go lenient or not.
Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim malachai elyoin mihi melech malchai ameluchim hakudosh burichi Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim